Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Diaspora Network, the program that celebrates Nigerians making remarkable strides around the world. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. On today's program, we meet Caleb Adebayo, named among the American Bar Association's top 40 young lawyers. He reflects on his journey from Port Harcourt to New York, the obstacles he overcame to attend NYU, and his ambition to help finance Africa's clean energy transition. Well, first, let's take a look at the latest news making headlines across the global Nigerian community.
Nigeria emerged as the highest-ranked African nation at the 2026 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow, Scotland, finishing 7th on the overall medals table. Team Nigeria claimed 24 medals, consisting 10 gold, 7 silver and 7 bronze, to cap an impressive campaign and finish as Africa's top-performing nation. Beyond the sporting arena, Nigerian-born technology executive Obiageli Obiokafo became the first African woman to receive the Women in Telecoms Champion Award at the 2026 Comms Council UK Awards. The honour recognizes her outstanding contributions to the UK's telecommunications industry and her commitment to mentoring more than 52,000 aspiring technology professionals across over 70 countries through her non-profit PM Help. Before moving to the UK, she built a diverse career spanning product management, poetry, shoemaking, leading technology products and partnerships in Nigeria and Dubai. Meanwhile, in the United States, veteran Nollywood actor and former Delta State Commissioner for Culture and Tourism, Richard Mofe-Damijo, has been appointed Honorary Brand Ambassador of the Nigerian Center in Washington, D.C. He also received the Center's 2026 Honorary Recognition Award for his contributions to the arts, public service, and the promotion of Nigeria's image globally. In his new role, he will champion initiatives that promote Nigerian culture and strengthen engagement with the Nigerian diaspora. From sporting excellence to innovation, leadership, and cultural diplomacy, Nigerians continue to project the country's talent and influence across the world.
And now a quick update from the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission, NIDCOM, as it continues its work engaging Nigerians abroad and strengthening their connections with the country.
The Nigerians in Diaspora Commission has concluded its 3-day 2026 National Diaspora Day celebration, reaffirming its commitment to strengthening engagement with Nigerians abroad and harnessing their expertise for national development. The celebration themed Harnessing Global Diaspora Medical Expertise to Strengthen Local Health Systems for National Development brought together government officials, diplomats, health professionals, private sector leaders, and members of the Nigerian diaspora to explore ways of deepening diaspora participation in nation building.
Our diaspora Medicare groups and individuals have equipped hospitals, PHCs, and trained medical and donated medical equipment worth billions of naira. We do celebrate you anywhere you are in the world. From $17 billion in 2019 to over $21 billion in 2025, all from you, the diaspora.
Government recognizes diaspora as one of the nation's most strategic assets. Beyond remittances and investment, so much of which we've heard this evening, our diaspora serves as a powerful bridge for diplomacy, innovation, technology transfer, professional exchange, and global partnership.
Representing President Bola Tinubu, the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, George Akume, announces plans to institutionalize the Diaspora Healthcare Impacts Initiative while urging Nigerians abroad to remain active partners in the country's development. The second day of the celebration focuses on youth engagement with business leaders, media executives, and diaspora professionals mentoring young Nigerians through panel discussions on leadership, innovation, and career development. Outstanding students and young achievers were also recognized for their excellence.
The Adebayo's values. John Momo is an example. He was a reporter in NTA. And at the time I knew John, he was still working with government. And we got him to actually, it was NTA we engaged to cover a program on The first gas seminar we had in Warri, and that was when we crossed paths. He did his job so well, not looking for anything. And with that, when he came out to be on his own, it was easy. There are people who were, oh, you are, just support like that. Because he was honest, committed to the job.
I think that, in each and every one of us, the youth among us today, there's a lion sleeping in each and every one of us. All we need to do is to wake up. And then we'll see that the sky will not be the limit, but the starting point for each and every one of us.
The event ends with the National Diaspora Merit Awards and dinner, where more than 20 Nigerians were honored for their contributions to national development in health, education, technology, agriculture, ICT, engineering, and leadership. The First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, received the Diaspora Health and Humanity Champion Award, which was accepted on her behalf by the wife of the Vice President, Mrs. Nana Shetima, who called for continued support for Nigeria's healthcare sector. As the 2026 National Diaspora Day celebration drew to a close, the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission reiterated its commitment to building stronger partnerships with Nigerians across the world, leveraging their knowledge, skills, and investments to drive sustainable national development.
And now it's time to meet our guest. Caleb Adebayo is a Nigerian-born lawyer whose work lies at the intersection of structured finance, clean energy, and environmental advocacy. He's also the founder of Earth Plus Sustainability Network, an organization working to move conversations about Africa's environmental challenges towards practical action.
My name is Caleb Adebayo from Nigeria.
Caleb Adebayo is an associate in the New York office of Linklaters, where he advises on securitization and structured finance transactions. His career has included major energy deals in Nigeria and the United States, including a $3 billion solar securitization involving the U.S. Department of Energy.
Because I'm very particular about how climate finance can be done through the private sector. So the private sector holds about $210 trillion in finance globally today. And what we are seeing is that a lot of times we don't pivot our mind to the fact that private finance can do a lot for climate change. So the question is, what are we doing as young people? Young people today consist a lot of the population in fintechs and fintech startups. The average age of people working at private equity firms today is 25 to 35. And so the question is, how are we ensuring continuously that these young people are getting involved in making that transition finance available for the transition?
The Nigeria-born lawyer was recently named among the American Bar Association's top 40 young lawyers, recognizing excellence, leadership, and public service.
It means a lot. To be one of the 40 young lawyers recognized by the largest bar association in the world is, to simply put it, unbelievable. It's a very significant feather in my cap. And again, to have the alma mater that you went to, NYU, not just any institution, write a personal note from the dean to congratulate you and say that the entire law school is proud of you. That was something to see, and I'm very grateful for it. All I can say is I'm humbled, and I'm very thankful to God. And you'll probably hear this a lot in my conversation with you today. I know that God has been a big part of my journey. And it also makes me feel an overwhelming sense of duty to continue to uphold standards in the profession and also to help other young lawyers rise.
Growing up in Port Harcourt, he originally planned to become an aeronautical engineer, but after his junior secondary school examinations, a personal spiritual retreat changed the direction of his life.
So, as many people have it in Nigerian homes, growing up as a young boy, my mother had in a sense, assigned professions to all of us in the family. I was supposed to be the engineer, and she assigned to my siblings as well. Suffice it to say that none of it worked out in terms of all the professions she assigned. Everyone found their own path. But for me, what happened was I was actually going to be, an engineer. She had assigned engineer. I decided if I'm going to do engineering, I'm going to do the most complex there is, the most difficult. And I was like, what is it? And I was, yes, aeronautical engineering. You're working with planes. You're not working with things that stay on the earth. And for me, it was such a big deal. And I was going to do it on junior secondary school 3, GS3. That was about 2006. And two things made that decision change for me. One was, so how you do the junior WIAC exam and you have quite a lot more time than you typically have for holidays afterwards. I spent much of that time in a personal retreat. A young boy who really loved God and just wanted to spend time saying, God, what next? What is it that you want me to really do? And during that retreat, I came out of that retreat knowing that I was supposed to study law. And I was so sure of it. Now, the second thing I would say is just generally, even prior to that time, I had a passion for just seeing justice done and seeing the right thing being done through the proper legal channels, people getting what was due to them, and not being oppressed simply because they didn't have one thing or the other. And so that is something that had always been with me.
He began his legal career in litigation before moving into transactional practice, energy, and environmental law. Another major turning point came when he secured admission to New York University. Although he received some funding, it was not enough, and during the COVID-19 pandemic, obtaining a student loan proved difficult. Rather than abandon the opportunity, he turned to crowdfunding.
Starting my legal career, I didn't know what I wanted to focus on because law is such a vast practice and there's so much that you can choose to do. And, just follow the regular path. I actually did start out in litigation, did that for about 2 years until I decided that the law courts and the justice legal system in Nigeria was just too slow. And also I started developing interest in energy and environmental law at the time. And so for me, that was one turning point. That was a real pivot because I was going to move from what I had started doing and what most people were familiar with, the wig and gown, go to court, to something different, which is transactional law practice. But then the turning point in terms of moving to New York for my master's it was a big decision. And it was one that I took because I wanted to really explore and know how else is this thing done in different parts of the world. Yes, I was working at the time in one of the top law firms in Nigeria, Templars, and doing energy and environmental law work, project finance work. And I wanted to know, how is this done elsewhere? And so I applied for a master's at NYU, a couple of other schools, gained admission. I actually did gain admission the first time to NYU. I applied to just 2 schools then, and they gave me some funding, but it was barely enough. And I just couldn't go that year. You just clear that couldn't happen. The second time I reapplied. And so I abandoned that admission, reapplied to NYU and a couple more schools. I knew more then, I had a better personal statement and everything. I got in again, got more funding, but it was still not enough. And that was the real turning point where I decided to crowdfund my fees to NYU. If you Google my name, you will still find relics of that crowdfunding on Google. And for me, it's just constantly a reminder that this journey wasn't the easiest of journeys, but it always is great to look back and see where it all started. And so, and really, I wasn't going to do crowdfunding. I was just going to take out a loan. But it so happened that was COVID year and nobody was giving out loans. And so I'm like, I have to go to school. I have to go to NYU. This is it. And so I crowdfunded and God was so kind. People were so, so generous. I raised about $24,000-ish and got another $10,000 from someone I really, really always appreciate. And got a couple monies here and there, was able to go to school and just have that experience. And I'm very grateful for it.
And still ahead on the program, Caleb Adebayo discusses his work with Earth Plus Sustainability Network and what Nigeria can do to support young lawyers. Please stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Now more from our conversation with Caleb Adebayo. So there was COVID and then the finance aspect as well, which were quite big challenges. But how was it when you eventually got to NYU, the big transition? It's a whole different environment. There are different ways of doing things. What kind of challenges did you encounter and how did you eventually establish yourself within the American legal profession?
I was doing project finance, energy transactions, environmental regs back in Nigeria. Coming here, although I actually came to do my master's in energy and environmental law, there was a pivot for me while at NYU. And the pivot was because I was looking to solve a problem. For me, coming to the US for my master's was to do my master's and gain some work experience and go back to Nigeria to implement those solutions that I had learned here. And so the first thing I was asking myself while at NYU, and I took this course on energy and international trade, was how can I start thinking about these solutions? And so when we had to write a paper for that course, I decided to write on how to use what I do now, which is structured finance or securitization, as you may call it, to finance the energy transition in Africa. And so I wrote a paper on solar securitization. That paper was the turning point for me in shifting me from the pathway of project finance and core energy project deals to securitization that was a new, to me at least, method of financing projects that could really help the African continent.
Yeah, I really like that. And I think it's important for a lot of people, especially Nigerians that enter new spaces, because a lot of people feel like there's that fear of, oh, am I meant to be here? So I think that's really encouraging to hear. And I also just want to pick up on something that you said. The initial plan was to come to study and then eventually go back to Nigeria. But that's not been the case. But I know that you're still very much involved in Nigeria with your nonprofit, which you founded in 2015. What problems were you seeking to address and what impact has that organization made so far?
Thank you very much. That organization was a response to a problem that I saw in 2015. The name of the organization is Earth Plus Sustainability Network. And in 2015, as a student at Adebayo University, I was doing an environmental law class. It was an elective class under Professor Margaret Okorodu-Fubara, very, very knowledgeable, very, very accomplished woman. And she would teach us all these really wonderful classes and talk about all these conferences that happened where people talked about environmental problems in Nigeria, and I would see the pictures. And I grew up in Port Harcourt. I was born and I grew up there. So I had a lived experience of pollution and gas flaring and all of that. For me, it was a need to move from talk to action. I was tired of talking about it. I was tired of writing about it. I was tired of just sitting there and hearing how it was being talked about at conferences. For me, it was we needed to do something. And so our mantra at Earth Plus is to see a world to create a world where human beings are as concerned about the environment as they are about their daily survival. And so for us, that's the goal. Let people get to that point where it matters to them. The environment is key for them. And so far, 11 years now down the line, we've reached at least 15,000 people directly, adults and young people alike, and over 30,000 people indirectly. Late last year, we've had a lot of projects, a lot of events over time. Late last year, we held one of our biggest so far, which was Project Solve meaning solutions for a viable environment. And so what we did is that we brought together students from across Lagos. I think about 100 schools started at the competition, and then we sort of reduced it to 10, who then came and presented on the event day. And we had all of these schools have their representatives present solutions. So the idea was the school should come up with a solution for plastic pollution that they can implement in their school. And they came up with different things, lovely, very lovely projects. And at the end of the day, one of the schools won. Right now, they're building it. It's almost finished. It's a greenhouse built with plastic bottles. And so they're going to use it built in their school compound, and they're going to plant, stuff there and just keep using it. And look at it, you'll be very impressed. So we had a grant that was given out to the winning school, and then they are implementing the project right now. So we had support from the Lagos State government and just tremendous support for this program. And currently we're preparing for a national youth dialogue in Lagos, actually, with the support of the Dutch government and then the Dutch consulate in Lagos. And all of these things we're trying to touch the different aspects of the economy, bring together stakeholders. We want to reach young people. We want to reach the government, get them involved. We want to reach private sector, because the one we're planning for, there's going to be a lot of involvement of people from private sector, because we're talking about the just transition. Let's really ask ourselves, can we really move from dirty energy to clean energy, and what does that entail? And so, I think the impact has been very, sometimes even more impressive than I could have imagined. And I think the biggest impact, though, is the fact that I was able to give people a platform to do something that helps the environment. The people who volunteer on my team are amazing. From my wife is our first volunteer. She's like working so hard on the team, and then all of the people on the team, when I see them be able to do what makes them happy or makes them feel fulfilled, for me, that gives me all the fulfillment I need.
And I want to move on now to what practical advice you would give young Nigerian lawyers or, anyone hoping to build international careers, but they may feel limited by where they studied, their professional networks, or their present circumstances.
That's a very good question. I didn't grow up with any of the silver spoons, golden spoons, whatever it's called, that would have, been a way for me to easily make it into the profession or make it in my career or make it in life. I really grew up in some of the worst circumstances you can imagine. Dad who was a pastor, a mom who was a teacher, and one of the things that helped was the power of imagination. But I'll follow this up with something else very quickly. But imagine just beyond your present circumstance. It doesn't matter what your present circumstance is. And I like reading the stories of people who have made it past what was their circumstance. And so we all know the World Cup just ended, and I was so buried in just reading about the people who made their names at the World Cup, just reading the stories of people like Lamine Yamal and a couple of them who even the former stars like Pele, for instance, and Ronaldinho. And I know this is not a football conversation, but reading about those people, I was amazed at how their start was. The fact that they had some of the worst circumstances, but those things built them. In fact, I was really amazed at the play of Ronaldinho or Pele, and I started Googling what exactly made them that good. And in one of the stories, it was that the fact that he used to play something that was not really a ball helped him have so much control on the ball when he actually played a real ball, because being able to control something that was not an actual ball, when you actually play a ball, you have so much control over it. And people, well, how are you able to control the ball that way? And those stories of people rising above their circumstances is a story of the power of imagination and resilience. So you stay in your present circumstance, but you imagine outside it, and you see what you can be, how much of that you can be.
And just speaking of support, what more do you think Nigeria can do to identify, support, and create opportunities for young lawyers?
Thank you. I think three things very quickly. The first is legal education. There is a lot that needs to be done in legal education. people are leaving the law school, people are leaving university without really being able to translate it into the world of work. And they are competing on a global stage now, no more on a national stage. And so we need reforms in the legal education, in universities that will help these young people compete globally. I think the second thing is the concept of justice. People need to feel like the rule of law and justice and due process work in Nigeria. A lot of lawyers are leaving the country, or at least leaving litigation, because they don't believe it, because they look at their colleagues who tell them, oh, you're a lawyer, please, that thing doesn't even matter. I can go to my police or army friend and get something dealt with. I don't need a lawyer. And so that is something that needs to be addressed. And finally, supporting just the business environment, because transactional law will grow more if the business environment is supported by the government. So those are three things I would really like to see.
Caleb, Adibayo, once more, congratulations on your achievements. And thank you so much for taking the time out to speak to us on Diaspora Network.
Thank you very much, Taniola. It was my pleasure.
And that brings us to the end of this week's edition of Diaspora Network. To watch this and previous episodes celebrating Nigerians around the world, visit channelstv.com or our YouTube channel. Until next time, I'm Teniola Oyetayo. Thank you for watching.